In New York, this is a big thing. There are over 1 million rent-stabilized apartments whose protections will expire on June 15th. Now, this is a major thing, obviously, because there's already a housing crisis in New York, as there is a housing crisis across the country with real estate speculation and wealth inequality driving it. But this is one remnant of vital legislation that is protecting some of the last remnants of middle and working class New York. And it's terrifying here. You look at the amount of people who lose their homes and go from one town and one borough to the next, people who have good, solid middle-class jobs, commuting from bleak exurbs back into New York City where they work, where maybe they've lived for generations. It's a massive crisis. And I'll read now from a report in the New York Times. The conflict over New York City's rent laws turned raucous on Tuesday as hundreds of thousands of tenant activists flooded the state capitol, leading to a scuffle and dozens of arrests. For months, activists have cast the looming rewrite of New York's rent laws as a once-in-a-generation battle. The state that regulates almost 1 million stabilized apartments expires on June 15th. With Democrats in control of the legislature for only a third time in more than a half century, progressive lawmakers are pushing for more tenant-friendly provisions. Now, with 11 days remaining, the fight has increased in intensity as one-bedroom rents in the city have hit an all-time high at a time when New York has the largest homeless population in the city. That's the crisis. Those are the stakes. Find out who your legislator is, who represents you in the New York State Senate. We should follow up on this and put a guide and push the hell out of this over the next several days. And we also wanted to highlight that New York's new public advocate, and if this is any indication, he's going to be a great one. Jumaane Williams was arrested along with the protesters. So that's excellent. Let's play some footage of him.
And that's money that they've printed with Andrew Cuomo's face on it, if you're watching.
Andrew Cuomo is Andrew Cuomo, I believe, is supporting Joe Biden, one of the worst politicians in the country, one of the most harmful to working people.
He might sign the legislation, though.
He will.
I read that they have the votes in the Senate, and he has said that if the Senate passes it, he'll sign it.
That's the other flip side of even the worst Democrat, because of the nature of coalition politics, might be forced to sign of essential legislation in people's lives. And this needs to be a first step for breaking up the real estate industry, public housing, good, excellent, high quality, look up Vienna public housing, and massive universal rent control. So, yeah. And that's real leadership from Jumaane Williams. That's excellent. If that's an indication of what he's focusing on as public advocate, then he'll be a great public advocate. And I'm excited to vote for him for re-election and for other offices he might be interested in, including, we'll have to start talking about the mayoral race soon, but finally getting a mayor in New York City who's going to go to war with real estate and not beg for them for some crumbs while they donate to his campaigns. And that's why I can never take de Blasio seriously as a presidential contender.
Absolutely. This is what a public advocate should be doing, like literally advocating for the public. And I got to give a little shout out to the state senator from my district, Julia Salazar, because her
awesome.
Just Cause eviction bill is probably the most radical in this whole raft of legislation that, taken together, is being referred to as universal rent control. Just cause eviction says that a tenant cannot be evicted or denied the renewal of a lease because they wouldn't pay an unconscionable increase in rent. And what that means is it's indexed to something called the Consumer Price Index, which is decided by a variety of things, but it would effectively cap rent increases at 3.3% at virtually every single unregulated New York City rental apartment, which would change all of our lives.
Absolutely.